Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rollin with my homies. I am your host, Santina Muha. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to the Outside In Theater channel or just give us a like as you watch. I'm very excited to have my guest today. This is someone who interviewed me, I think like about a year ago, and I just knew, I said, oh, this guy's good. I want to have him on my show someday. And, you know, I'm a Sicilian. I'm true to my word. So please, everybody, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have him. He's a media professional, an accessibility consultant, and a gamer. We love that. Paul Amadeus Lane. Yay!
Thank you. Always great to see you, Santina, with your beautiful self.
Thank you. It's so cool to have you here. I know that when you were interviewing me, I just felt like I was dealing with a professional. You know what I mean? I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing. And you feel like very seasoned to me, right? You're seasoned. You've probably been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah, since about the year 2000. That's when I knew that, being in the media field was something I wanted to pursue. And I really appreciate the kind words. You know what they say, fake it till you make it, right?
Yes. Yeah, totally. So what were you doing before media stuff?
Before, I was an emergency medical technician. So that was about 7 years after my accident. Before my accident, I'm sorry. I was EMT, worked on an ambulance, worked in the LA area. We did a lot of 911 emergency calls. So that's what I was into before that, and being a musician 7 years prior to my accident. So that's what I was doing. And then after my accident, I was like, man, I got to do something. I got tired of watching all the talk shows and everything. So I kind of dibbled and dabbled into like the home-based business, like websites, computers, and graphics and things like that. And then when I found out that this was something that was more headache than what it was worth, I was like, I need to find something else to do. So that's what happened. The media came calling, and I answered.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense. I feel like as soon as you're put in a wheelchair, you're answering questions all day from strangers, from doctors, from nurses, from just whatever. And so you kind of get good at it, I think. So, okay, you mentioned your accident, right? So let's jump into the origin story, right? Because I actually don't know yours. So please tell me and everyone watching what put you in a chair.
I was in an automobile accident. I was coming home from hanging out, and we were on the 710 freeway here in California, and we ran into an accident that was already on the freeway. So I was in the back seat, and right away, I couldn't move. I felt a pop in my chest, and I was just stuck. And then all I can remember was like a couple of people pulling me out of the car and laying me on the freeway. And as I'm laying on the freeway, I'm like, I hope nobody runs over me. So then I look over in the corner and I see this very familiar yellow and white ambulance. And it was actually the company that I worked for that rescued me that night. So my coworkers were there, my supervisor was there. So they took great care of me, airlifted me to one of the major trauma centers, and that started my 8 months in the hospital.
That's like one of the things that you see on a TV show and you're like, yeah, okay, right. Where are the odds that the one he works for is the one that picks him up?
Yeah, it was really, that really calmed me down, because
that was going to say, it must have felt nice to have familiar, I mean, as nice as it could feel, to have familiar faces around you, right?
Yeah, it was, because I was like, I knew something serious was wrong because of my medical background, but I was like, wow, I can't move, and
yeah, and these were people that you trusted because you worked with them and you knew that they knew what they were doing, right? I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Because, just because someone's wearing, I call it a costume, like I don't trust someone just because of the costume that they're wearing. They have to build trust, and you don't have time to build trust in that type of a situation. So that's great. You had already laid out the foundation. And how you said you were 22 years old when that happened, right?
22 years old, engaged to be married, and I studied about quadriplegia when I was in EMT school. So I knew about that and everything. But after I got hurt, I really understood what quadriplegic was. And me being a C6 quadriplegic, yes, I was 22, engaged to be married, about to buy a house, living a dream, and good job, and great hobbies and everything. And then everything just, halted at that time.
So when you were 22 years old, you were engaged to be married, and you had studied quadriplegia. This is very interesting to me that you studied it, because I often wonder, because I'm sure this has happened to you. You go to a doctor, especially in the emergency room or something, and they don't understand the first thing about spinal cord injury, and you have to tell them. That's why I'm always like, please don't let me pass out. I have to be as alert as I possibly can. I won't take any of the medication that they give me until I've explained everything, because I feel like I have to be alert and aware, because even I feel like the doctors don't know, not all of them, but many of them don't know what they're talking about when it comes to spinal cord injury. So can you tell me a little bit about like how in depth did this quadriplegia chapter or spinal injury chapter go when you were learning about it?
It didn't really go in too much depth because I was learning emergency medicine. So it was kind of like, tape them up, let them go, let's get them. So that's kind of was, but it explained the spinal injury. It said a person is a quadriplegic when they have a injury at C1 down to C8 prominence, and then they talked about under C8 to T's to make somebody a paraplegic. So I understood that it meant that you would have some paralysis in your extremities. And then when I was working too, we picked up a couple of gentlemen who were spinal cord injury. Someone who was maybe like a C2 quad that was on a respirator, and then we had another person who's like kind of like a C6 like me, who had some arm movement but no finger movement. So I understood, exactly, what a spinal cord injury was. But after I had one, I started to empathize with the ones who I used to pick up and transport to different hospitals, because recognizing how my life changed and how things were different, I really had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, what were some of the differences, what you thought about it versus now that
It was interesting. Like, I remember about the first 3 weeks, I was really critical in ICU. So my heart stopped for 52 seconds, stopped breathing. I was on a respirator. So I was really critical, but it wasn't until maybe like a month that I came to and was able to really understand. I always thought, okay, when the therapist said, I was in Rancho Los Amigos Medical Center. So I was in a medical center when I got her to rehab hospital. When they said, a therapist going to come in, they're going to show you how to get in the chair. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, they're going to show me how to stand up and get in my chair. Because I'm thinking, paralysis doesn't mean that you can't walk, it means that you need to be taught how to walk again. So that's when I really understood just how serious of an issue this is. Not having the ability to dress myself, to feed myself, to wash myself. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool though, when I had some pretty nice looking nurses. That was pretty cool though. But and just being able to be independent, it was a hard pill for me to swallow when that happened.
I mean, yeah, because there's not enough. I always say there's not enough in the media. There's not enough in movies. There's not enough in TV. They don't really show what it's actually like to live with a spinal cord injury. There may be like a dramatic scene where someone becomes, disabled, and then they end up, dying at the end of the movie or something like that. But they don't actually show enough of what it's like to live. And even you who had knowledge of it, you only had base level knowledge of it, right?
Absolutely.
It's very interesting that somebody who's in the medical field didn't really understand what it would be like to have a spinal cord injury until until you were faced with it, right? I think they need to explain it just a little bit more, because some of the questions that these doctors ask me, I'm like, I can't be smarter than you. It's scary. I'm scared. You know what I mean? But
yeah. Especially say, get up on the table. I'm looking like, how do you expect I do that, champ?
Right. Or I'll go to my doctor sometimes, and this table is so high up. I need two people to pick me up and put me on the table. I'm like, maybe if I went to a tanning salon or something, I maybe could forgive a little inaccessibility, but not at the doctor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you're an accessibility consultant, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit. Thank you, because we need them.
Yeah, primarily, I consult in the gaming world and also in the tech world.
Oh, cool.
So I work with making technology accessible for all. And one of my principles that I go by when I work with different companies and different organizations is, everybody's trying to get that one size fit all. They can actually do that if they build with us in mind. Because if it's accessible for us, it's accessible for them. And that's been an amazing, journey. I was covering E3 one year, and that's the big video game convention in Los Angeles. And, all the different major companies invite the media out to their different media showcases. And this one was put on by PlayStation. So we were in someplace down in LA at the Shrine. And they wanted to know who was disabled so that they can allow them to come in. They can allow them to not be out in the crowd. They can provide refreshments for us, keep us nice and cool. And the lead counsel was the person who put that on. And he came over to us and he's like, if you need anything, please let us know. He gave me his card. And there's a moral to the story. I promise, Santina, it's coming.
Okay.
He gave me his card and I lost it. So I was asking my wife, hey, what happened to that card? I need to talk to that guy. So 2 months later, she found the card. I emailed him to thank him what he did for us and let him know that I work with the Abilities Expo as one of their ambassadors. Mm-hmm. And if they need any help with any disability related things, please let me know. He responded back, hey, we're putting on this first ever accessibility meetup for members of the disabled community with the gaming community. We want to know some of the challenges that you have when it comes to gaming. Are you interested in helping me put it on? So I'm thinking me working with PlayStation to put something like this on. And I'm like, heck yeah, I'll definitely do it. So we put that on, and to make a long story short, because of that interaction right there, that parlayed into me working with them on certain video game projects to put in different accessibility features so that ones with various forms of disabilities can play games really without any barriers. So that's just that chance meeting that I had covering E3 parlayed that into me being a part of that community. And last year, I was part of a team that won the first ever accessibility gaming award for one of the video games that we worked on. So wow. Sometimes I look back, Santina, and I'm like, wow, where did all this come from?
Right. Congratulations. What video game was that?
I can either confirm or deny it only because of the NDAs that we signed. But
good, even better.
Yeah, it was a really popular one, and it was really, really good. Yeah, that's one thing about the gaming community. They I
know.
Yeah, and being in the media, being an actor, Santina, about those NDAs and stuff. So.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, I love this because I love video games, and I grew up loving them, especially because I felt like they put me, for the most part, on an even playing field with my friends, because I'm a paraplegic, so I have full, motion in my hands. And so to ask my friend, you want to come over and play, Super Mario or whatever, it was like something we could all do. And it never felt like, oh man, there's another thing, that I can't do. I can't jump rope like them. I can't jump on the trampoline like that. No, if we were playing video games, we were all doing it and leveled the playing field. Of course, I wish there were more females. That's another conversation, because why is it?
There are. I know a bunch of them. They're like.
Now, yeah, but remember in the early 90s, it was Princess Peach.
That's true.
Or nothing. And you know what I mean? But anyway, and then in Mortal Kombat, you got Sonya, you know what I mean? But anyway, So now there's more. We're getting there. But God, could you imagine if I had seen a video game character like in a wheelchair or something like that? That would be so badass. But then when Guitar Hero came out, I was like, yes, I loved Guitar Hero. And then Rock Band came out. And they had the drums, and the drums you had to use your foot, and you couldn't take the foot part out. And I'm like, just thinking, it's got to be as easy as flipping a switch. These are things that they should be thinking about, I think, from the back end. And like I said, for me, I have full range of motion in my hands, but these are other issues that I'm sure that you've talked to them about, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that whenever I work on any project, Santina, I never selfishly think about myself, because they ask me, hey, Paul, does this work for you? Yeah, it works for me. But what about my friend who has no arm movement? What about my friend who does have arm movement? Can we think about them? And you can tell that really gets the wheels going because they're like, yeah, we have to think about everyone. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. We're working on some things right now to make it like, you don't need to have a foot pedal, playing Guitar Hero and all these other things. So there's some things going on in the tech world, the gaming world that's really gonna blow everyone's mind.
Oh, good. I love that because it's such an accessible activity. It's a social activity that you can do from home, because of the ear, the headpieces and things like that people have. And I don't know, I love it. And it's just childhood staple. Like if you love games, you should be able to play them, I love that. I think that's so cool and so fun. And I know my brother right now, he's actually doing, what is it called when they put the things on you? And
VR?
Yeah. He's doing like the motions for a video game, and I'm so jealous.
Yeah. Motion capture, yeah.
Motion, yeah, mocap. He's doing that. I'm so jealous of him, and so please, you've got to know if there's ever a character in a wheelchair that needs mocap, please keep me in mind because it's on my bucket list to do the.
You know what? Better yet, you gonna be my honey, and I'm gonna rescue you. So that's what we gonna do. That's how we gonna do that, Santina.
I think we have to do it both ways because I need to also be rescuing.
Yeah, you can rescue me. All right, you can rescue me.
Okay, good. We'll do it both ways. Yes, for sure. It just seems so cool and so fun. And I would love to do that. You had mentioned earlier Comic-Con as well as accessible because you said that this video game conventions typically tend to be accessible. I thought because they're in huge places and the aisles are usually big. Can you talk to me a little bit about the accessibility of Comic-Con?
Yeah, really want to give some props to Comic-Con Inc. And they're the ones that put on Comic-Con and WonderCon and all the major cons out there. They do a fantastic job of making sure there's enough rooms in the aisle. They make sure that the ones who have a disability have their own separate check-in with their attendant. They have family bathrooms. They have lines where those who are disabled can go to that line to keep you out of the heat. They do even like on the media side, I kind of felt bad. It was a few years back. I was in a press room for Battlestar Galactica. It was like the 25th anniversary. So I got there kind of late because I was at another press room there earlier. So when I get there, there's no room for me on the press line. So I'm over to the side, and I've been working with some of these PR people for years, interviewing some of their guests. So one of them came over, like, "Hey, Paul, what's the problem?" I said, "I can't get up there." She said, "Hold on a second. I'm gonna kick everybody out of the line, and I'm gonna let you get in first, and then we'll go from there." And I'm like, you don't have to do that. I'll just hang back. I'll see you in the 12 Monkeys press room, so I'll leave it alone. But just how accommodating they are, for us, even as professionals, is really, really gratifying.
Well, yeah, because, Professor X from X-Men is like one of the kings of Comic-Con and comics, right? And he's in a wheelchair. Nobody cares, that's fine. I feel like a lot of comics are sort of, especially X-Men, their whole thing is that they're sort of misfits or they're disabled in a way that gives them other abilities, right?
Absolutely. One of these days, I'm gonna cosplay as Professor XY. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. Well, I have this joke that I say I tried to go as Sinead O'Connor for Halloween, and everybody thought I was Professor X.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny.
So, but yeah, I think that that's something that people with disabilities really do. When you take away one or more of our abilities, we compensate, and that's what everybody. Even animals do that. That's what we do as mammals, I think, right? We figure out, we adapt, and we do it, I think.
And you know what? You bring up a very good point, Santina. I know the new CEO over at the United Spinal Association. He's a paraplegic. His name is Enzo Piscopo. He came from Coca-Cola. And one thing he always says, he says, we who are part of the community, we wake up every day trying to problem solve.
Yes.
Every day we wake up. How are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to solve that problem? And you're right. Even though some of our abilities may be diminished, but man, we can definitely make it do what it does. And other abilities. So.
Yes, I read an article once that said, people with disabilities don't get hired because people think they're going to, be a deficit. They're going to need something. They're going to show up, not, call out sick, blah, blah. And the article was like, you're going about this wrong. Hire people with disabilities because they are going to be your problem solvers. They are going to be the people that think outside of the box. They're going to think of things, come at things a different way that nobody else has thought of yet, because we are forced to do that. Yeah, pretty much from the time we leave our homes to the time we get back. And I've had to do it inside my own home too. You pop a wheel, whatever, things happen. And you're like, well, got to figure out this now, right?
And sometimes we get the ire of our coworkers, right? Because, our managers and supervisors, they're like, hey, I don't hear no excuses because Paul and Santina can do this. So I don't want to hear it. They look at it, that's like,
right.
But it just shows we're cut from a different cloth. This pandemic showed just how special we are in our input, because many of us have been on lockdown and isolation for many years, because of our disability, not able to go places because of transportation, and because of just medical issues that we have a pressure sore. We can't go out for a while. So this pandemic, we were able to share with the rest of the world, like, hey, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Just learn from us.
Yes. You might have to do things a little differently now, but you'll be able to do things again. Relax. I mean, you have been doing, I don't know about Zoom, but you've been doing video type interviews like this for a while, right? Since way before COVID, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of weird when you think back. In 2008, I got the morning show from this one media outlet that I worked at in San Bernardino. It was an NBC radio affiliate. And one of the things the deal I worked out with station management was, if you want me to do the show and be up that early, I have to be able to do it from my home studio.
Yes,
so
nice.
They hooked up my home studio. We started using Skype, for camera. And like my coworkers were in the studio. So we would do a lot of video interviews and things like that. So, I've been doing this since like 2008. And when the pandemic hit, it was like second nature. I hit the ground running because I was doing it anyway. Mm-hmm. And so, you look at like today, Santina, you and I being able, even though this pandemic was awful for all of us to deal with, many of us lost loved ones, we lost friends, we lost time that we can't have back. But when you look back at what we've been able to accomplish, like you and I probably would never have met, if it wasn't because of this pandemic and we're doing the Abilities Expo virtual event. All these things we were able to accomplish because we don't quit. We don't stop. Yes. And that makes us really unique.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they listened to you and allowed you to do that, because I know that a lot of people with disabilities have been kind of saying, hey, I've been asking to do stuff from home for years, and you said, no, impossible. But now all of a sudden, because all these other people need it, now all of a sudden we can do classes from home, we can do meetings from home, we can do, it's like, okay, like that just goes to show. It's the same thing with, the accessibility outside. People in wheelchairs, we need ramps and things, but nobody cares. Now there's these birds, or Lime scooter things zooming all around the streets, and they're like, oh, we better fix the sidewalks for the bird scooters. And I'm like, fine, whatever. If that's the reason, I don't even care. Just fix them. I don't even care. But it's like, it just goes to show, when enough able-bodied people need something, that's when it gets done, I guess. I mean,
it is sad. It's sad because if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And unfortunately, until we get more of ones like ourselves who have a good moral compass, we'll be able to stop that. But sad to say, what happens sometimes in our community, Santina, ones like ourselves get in positions and we don't speak truth to power. We don't use our experience because we're just so happy that they gave us an opportunity to do things. But ones like ourselves, when we get into those positions and we really have a hard conversation with them, it says, okay, it may cost a little bit of money, but do the right thing. What if your wife needed it? What if your son, what if your grandma needed it? Just do the right thing. You do that, you get paid in other ways. The monetarily things will come, but just do the right thing,
Yeah, and it's like you said in the beginning, it would solve everyone's problems. Like I always say, nobody ever walks up to a ramp and says, oh, excuse me, but do you have stairs? It's like they'll just walk up the ramp. Everybody can use the ramp. Plus, not to mention, you have a parent with a stroller. You have someone who's, a delivery man with a refrigerator on a dolly, whatever. It's just easier. Bathrooms on airplanes. I always bring this up because they're so freaking small and everybody hates that. Everybody. Wow. Nobody would complain if the bathrooms were bigger on bathrooms, right?
The airplane, Santina, oh, wow.
I know.
You took me back there. I remember, this is why I don't fly anymore. I stopped flying back in 97, because, we got to get in that aisle chair, right? And you see, how big I am, right? So they put one cheek on this side, one cheek on the other side. And we made all the arrangements to have somebody, help me to get into the chair because I wasn't transferring myself back then. So we get there, they have these little people who trying to pick me up, and I'm like, you're gonna hurt me, And they threw me in a seat. I was so uncomfortable, and I was so bad, Santina, that I had to control myself because all I could do was cry because I was so frustrated because I'm like, why y'all treat me like baggage? But they didn't know. And yeah, that's one thing we got to work on, the airlines.
I hate traveling too. I mean, I always say, people say, if you ever won the lottery, it's the first thing you would do. And I'm like, private plane, because I want to be able to, my family's back in New Jersey, and it's not easy for me to just hop on a plane and go. And one of the last times I flew, and I'm sorry, I'll call them, I don't care, it was American Airlines. This flight attendant, they slammed me down in the aisle chair, and they hurt me. And I said to the flight attendant, that really, after the flight, I said, that really hurt, and she goes, well, maybe you should travel with the nurse. And I'm like, what? But I wasn't injured. I wasn't sick. I'm not sick. It's like, and I don't know if these people realize, but they're all in an airplane because guess what? They have limitations too. They can't fly, okay? They cannot fly. We're all limited in what we can do. So until you can just fly around, you need the airplane as much as I do, right? So relax there, lady. It was horrible. It was a horrible situation. And that's just one. I could do a whole series on airplanes. If I spoke to people in wheelchairs about their experiences on airplanes, I mean, not even an episode, a whole series, I'm sure. It's disgusting. It's gross. It's 2021.
And we were talking about this the other day, like, how come we can't have transit seats like we have on the Metrolink or on a bus, where they can just remove some seats and we can just get locked into our wheelchairs, It's all about the money. They know they want to, pack so many people in there, and I'm like.
But I can remember complaining about this and saying, it's 2000. It's the year 2000. Yeah. This is 21 years later, and I'm still talking about the exact same issue. Isn't that nuts?
And that's one thing, Santina, like myself and you, we're in that position now where we can shame them into making sure that they do that, because it's, something that needs to be done. Something that needs to be done, really.
Yeah. Too bad Comic-Con didn't design an airplane.
I know. We got to design one, Santina.
Yes, right?
Well,
that's why I get annoyed, these guys now, when they're flying to space. I'm like, I swear to God, if my friends are flying to the moon before I can even get back to Jersey, I'm going to freak out. Look, it's just... make it accessible for all. It really boggles my mind.
That's a good way to think about it. I'm starting using that too. Like if we flying into space, how come we can't figure this out for us? You know what I mean?
Yes, one thing at a time. You've skipped completely over us, And now you're going to the moon. Now you're going to space, and we still can't even, go to Mardi Gras. Come on. It's not right. It's annoying.
Yeah.
But thankfully you're part of that, and you're helping, and we're doing what we can, but it just really does feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like it's not getting better. I feel like sometimes it's getting worse. And I don't know, it's not, I don't know if it's getting worse, but it's not getting much better. And we're getting older. Like, you were injured in your 20s, but I was injured when I was 6. So when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, even in college, you know what I mean? A young, tiny girl, I didn't care being carried up a flight of stairs, because who cares? But now I'm an adult grown woman, and I'm hanging out with other adult grown people, and we don't want to be carrying each other. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to be carrying me, and I don't want to be carried anymore. Yes. So now I'm like, hey, stop making it so hard for us. And you, as a quadriplegic, it's dangerous as well.
Yeah.
When someone who doesn't know exactly how to pick you up the right way, people think they can just fling you over their shoulders. Not really.
Yeah, we got to deal with that dysreflexia and pressure sores, and I didn't realize this till many years after my accident, is that we are so close to having strokes. And I just took that for granted, because when our blood pressure goes up, for maybe because we have an infection, or maybe because we have a pressure area, that our blood pressure goes up and we can stroke out real quick. And that scared the daylights out of me when I found that out. But, it helped me to really be more careful, not cavalier about people helping me. Now I'm like, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. And if they give me any like static, I'm like, we need to get somebody else that can do this, because, now I'm gonna stay right here. I'm not gonna let you do it. Not gonna let you do it.
Yeah, and you have to be very clear, and you have to explain it well. And because, you look at people, oh yeah. Like, I've had people dump me out of my chair because they think, they know how to do it. And you have to be like, almost like a director, where you have to be clear. I don't know how you feel as a man. I mean, I know as a woman, sometimes it can come across as like bossy or whatever. I like, intersectionality is interesting to me when it comes to people with disabilities. And I don't know, do you ever feel as a Black man, how does that impact the way you feel as a wheelchair user? Do those two things ever bump heads, or, do you feel like you're discriminated against more because one or the other? How does that work for you? How do you feel about that?
When I was growing up, I dealt with a lot of discrimination before the accident. And I remember getting pulled over by the cops, just because of my skin tone. Being pulled out by gunpoint, told to sit on the ground, because I look like I'm a gang member, or because a car like mine was used in a robbery, or just because they want to just have fun at our expense. And after my accident, I always was terrified, Santina, of being pulled over and them asking me to get out of the car, and I'm not able to walk.
Mm-hmm. That just happened. Did you see it was on the news?
Yeah, I saw that. And that scared the daylights out of me, because even like with my injury and being Black, there are some times where you get that look. They're looking at you as, and we know that look, when we go into places, they're looking like you belong here. And also we throw the disability in it too. Oftentimes, you start to feel that people are treating you a different way, and they are, not, taking you seriously, and it's very, very frustrating. And I have to control myself a lot, because I can go from like 0 to 100 when I get upset, and I don't want to act too much of a fool, but I can, and get real angry. So I've definitely dealt with that, even post-injury as well too. But I think what I dealt with in the past kind of helped me to prepare myself that it's going to happen. And sad to say, sometimes it happens from, ones who look like me, who are trying to get brownie points from other people who don't look like them. And they think, oh yeah, I'm gonna treat you like this because I'm better than you, even though we're the same skin tone. And it's sad when it comes for ones who maybe go through the same struggle you do and know just how hard it is. And that's frustrating more than anything.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like you were discriminated against more or less or equally or differently before and after the injury?
I'm going to say professionally more.
Interesting, because now that you have a disability, you're not a typical Black man.
Yeah, I remember when I first got out of broadcasting school and I was trying to get a job. So I emailed out my resume, and back then you would send out what was called air checks. So it was kind of like you simulating like a talk show, simulating like a DJ set that you're introducing songs and everything. And I'll always send a picture. I went all out, Santina. I had like a picture of me on the label. I had everything. So I was like, make a good impression. So I was making a good impression. But as soon as they saw that face, that was one strike. But soon as they found out, because I used to say this, I used to tell ones, I'm disabled, but I can do the job. I used to make a mistake of saying that in the beginning, never would get a call back,
Right.
And I would go in for an interview. I stopped telling people, going for an interview. They wouldn't hire me and things like that. So yeah, I definitely felt that.
See, that's very interesting. And of course, everybody's experiences are different, across the board, whether for whatever, but it's just still interesting to talk about because that's it, because we all have such different experiences. And I wonder, and yeah, I think that sometimes I get a pass because I'm in a wheelchair, and then other times it works against me. So it just depends on the situation or the person and their life experiences. And, every single situation is different, I guess.
And, and I will say now, over, since it's been 28 years for me, I want to say over the last 5 years, it's been so much better.
Oh, good.
So, because I think that they either have a family member, a loved one, or someone they're close to who has a disability. I can't tell you how many times, this has happened to you too, Santina, like you meet somebody and they're like, I have a friend, who's a quad or who's a para, and he's having a hard time adjusting. Anything you can tell me to, help my. So a lot of people are empathizing because they're dealing with the same thing that we're dealing with because of a family member or a loved one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I say it should be on television and in films more, because as soon as somebody has somebody in their life with a disability, like I don't know if you have any siblings, but I know my brother, if he met someone in a wheelchair, he would be totally act normal around them because he grew up with me. He wouldn't be a weirdo at all. He wouldn't ask them, can you do this? Or like, he would just be normal. And so if you don't have someone directly in your life, then the second best thing in our society anyway is media, television, films. I mean, I've never been to India, but I just recently read a book about India, and I feel like I learned a few things about their culture just from reading this fiction book about a family, an Indian family growing up in America. And I was like, okay, cool. Do I know everything about it? Am I an expert now on Indian families? No, obviously not. But it was great to have that exposure. And unfortunately, our community is like left so far behind in that world. And I know that's why both of us are very passionate about what we do, because we just have to help represent and normalize it, because it's normal for us.
Absolutely. And, I had my first like glimpse of what you do. It was maybe like over 20 years ago. I got a call to be an extra on the show Felicity. And it was really interesting. They were trying to figure out where to put me at and everything. And they made accommodations for me, but I never got a call back again. And that was like many, many years ago. And then recently when Google did a little mini docu-series on me for Android, I got to see firsthand what happens when they include us. Mm-hmm. And that felt real good, because from 20 years to now, to see how they treat us now. And I'm sure, Santina, you probably have better stories than I have about how we treated like on sets and on productions that shows that, we're really turning that corner where people are looking at us as valuable members. But one thing I think we need more of, though, and I think you really touched on it, are storytellers. We need to have these roles. And what you've been able to do, Santina, is really transformational, because you have been able to kind of break a little bit of that glass ceiling when it comes to us, on the projects you worked on. and you and Allie and others out there, Alice Roker.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys really paving the way, for us out there. So I just want to give you props for what you do.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I have been in a chair for like a long time now, many, many years. And I wanted to be an actress since since the first time I saw TV, I was like, how do I get inside of that box, And then when I had my accident, it crossed my mind that now I can't do that. I didn't even cross my mind until other people started putting that on me. Oh, that's tough. That's going to be a tough business. I'm like, I know it's a tough business for anybody. That's why I'm going to be good at it. You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't cross my mind. And yes, they're making improvements in that world. But again, it's still, in my opinion, behind the times, as far as other marginalized groups go. I think that TV, think about it. You cannot name 3 celebrities in wheelchairs, 3 famous actors in wheelchairs. Can you name 3?
No, you can't.
You can't. And I am in that world. You're in this world. I know many obscure actors. Of course, I can name actors in wheelchairs. I know them. They're the people I'm up against half the time. But you cannot name 3 famous actors in wheelchairs, like, to this day. And I think that we're, all these other communities. And while, yes, there is not enough representation for many, many marginalized communities in the television industry and media and film, and they're working on it. But still, you can name 3 of almost every group, I think.
That's true.
Right?
That's so true. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. You're absolutely right. And yeah.
Male, female, child, adult, doesn't matter. You can, and maybe you can say, okay, well, that guy from that thing. No, I'm saying, what is their name? Who are they? Name more than one thing. That, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to hear the one from the show, the guy from the 80s, and the woman from the, come on, get real.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
That's true.
And I've been pursuing this field for, like I said, 30 years, a long time.
Yeah. And you know what I do, Santina, when I interview ones who are producers and directors, and when they always talk about inclusion, I always throw in us. I'm like, yeah, because, for the disabled community, they're underrepresented too. And so many times they'll stop there in their tracks like, yeah.
Yeah, oops.
And this is what I've been doing lately too. Like when I interview like directors and producers, and I always say, hey, if you're looking for a person in a wheelchair with a lot of mouth and a lot of sass, just let me know, because I'm in a position where I got them face to face.
Yeah.
So I got them face to face. I'm gonna try my best to make sure that there's more of us being seen. So I just be dropping it. You know what I mean? I'm like unapologetic about it.
We have to be. That reminds me. Tell me about some of the cool people that you've interviewed over the years.
Oh wow! One of the highlights of my career was interviewing Dr. Maya Angelou.
Oh, wow. That's great.
I interviewed her about a year before she passed away. And it was about her new book that was coming out. And she initially agreed on like 8 minutes, but she and I talked so much, it ended up being like a 20-minute interview. And during the interview, she kept saying, Mr. Lane, Mr. Lane, Mr. Lane. I said, Dr. Angelou, please call me Paul, because I'm honored to be in your presence. So please. So she started calling me Paul. And I remember she said this, and I kind of equate this to our community. And she was talking about the Black community. She was like, the price has already been paid, for us to be able to make different strides, and we still have to pay it forward. And I thought about us. I was like, we are paying the price right now, Santina, us, ones who have some type of notoriety out there. We're paying this price, so others don't have to work as hard as we do. And right. When we just look at something like that's really blew my mind. And then the cast from The Flash, Grant Gustin, really enjoyed talking with him. China Ann McClain, she's really cool. She and I really have fun when I interviewed her. The cast from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ning Mei, it was funny. She she would lean on my wheelchair, and I was interviewing her and Clark Gregg, and she leaned on my wheelchair, and I told her, I said, Ning, I said, you're the only one, Ming, you're the only one I allowed to hang on my wheelchair. She started laughing at everything, but that was really cool. And I would also say Terry Crews. It was funny when I interviewed him. Everybody wanted him to do the peg dance, right? So I didn't ask him to do the peg dance. I just said, "Hey Terry, do I got it? Do I got it? Do I got it?" And then he started doing it. So it was really, really funny. So him, gosh, and the cast from Arrow, Stephen Amell, really enjoyed getting the cast from Riverdale. It's funny. I'll tell you a funny story about Cole Sprouse. I met Cole about maybe 6 years ago when Riverdale first came out. And like a year later, I was in conflicting press rooms. So I sent my nephew to the Riverdale press room, and then I went to the Gifted press room. And so my nephew told Cole, he said, "Hey Cole, I'm Paul's nephew, the guy in the wheelchair." And Cole said, "Oh yeah, that's my buddy. Tell him where's he at." So it's really cool when ones remember who you are. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That is one of the advantages, I think, of being in a wheelchair is you are more memorable, right?
They know who you are.
It's funny. I also interviewed Cole Sprouse way back in the day when I worked for Tiger Beat magazine, and he was on Sweet Life. Yeah.
Yes.
Long time ago. Hey, did you get to interview Luke Perry, or was he there that day? Luke?
I didn't interview Luke, but Luke and I hung out at the Warner Brothers would put on a VIP mixer for all the media. So Luke and all the cast of Riverdale was hanging out, and so I went over to him, chatted it up with him, and he and I took a picture together, and that's the picture that I have on my Facebook wall that I still have.
That's mine on my phone. Luke Perry surprised me one time at the hospital. He's my number one of all time, and the background on my phone is my picture with Luke Perry. Wasn't he the best? Come on.
He's an awesome guy, and the year after he passed, you tell the cast still having a hard time, and one of my good friends who worked for Warner Brothers, she PR over there, Claire Jindal, and she gave us our marching order. She said, this is the only thing you guys can bring up about the episode that's going to pay tribute to Luke, because you can tell that the cast was still having a hard time, with that. But yeah, it was Luke is so awesome, and just really salt to the earth. Yes, he was.
Yes, he was. I know. I can't. Sorry, but you can't mention anything that has anything to do with Luke Perry without me wanting to talk about him.
He's awesome.
My heart.
Really awesome guy.
Yeah, you're doing all this. So now you're starting your own, or you recently started your own production company, right?
Sure did. Amadeus Fourth Media. I created that so that I can own my own content. So the shows that I have now that I do for the radio station that I work for, the ABC News Radio affiliate here in Southern California, all the shows that I do own the content, and it falls under the umbrella Amadeus Fourth Media. So the Entertainment Zone is one of the shows that I want to have you on, Santina, to talk about your career in the entertainment world. And then the Tech Zone. And then we are going to start pre-production on a docu-series that I'm going to do called Paul on Wheels. So what it's going to do is going to chronicle my travels when I'm working, when I'm covering different events, when I'm having fun, just the different things that I'm doing. And also, I want to do more content about us, Santina. I want to make more films about what we go through, and have us as the main focal point. Have a cast of all wheelchair users, all members of the disabled community. That is my goal.
Yeah, great. I'm excited to know that there's someone like you behind that, because I can tell you'll follow through, and you have the force behind it, and you have the right connections and the experience. That's something that, happens sometimes with people. They think, well, I can do it. You still have to train. You still have to learn the craft. You still have to practice, right? You can't just stumble into. You still have to work hard, with whatever you want to do. And you may even have to work harder, but you still have to train. You still have to put in the hours, put in the years, like you, right?
Yeah, you can't. You got to be in this for the love of the game.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, the rejections that you get, the challenges you have to overcome. If you don't have your mentals right, you won't be in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And there's times like when I'm interviewing someone and I am formulating in my brain my next interview, what I'm going to talk about. So it's always kind of just making sure that the preparation is there, learning different things, and put myself out there. Santina, when I started covering press lines, there was no disabled person on the press line. And you probably can attest to that too when you're on red carpet, how, you didn't see like reporters or interviewers on the line. I wanted to break that mode. I show up, I'm on the line, I'm on the carpet talking to ones, or I'm on the side of them, and I want them to get used to seeing us. And hopefully there'll be a time where we have our own press line, the disabled press line, where there's enough room for all of us to be in one line interviewing all the talent. And what if I'm interviewing you? I want to make sure there's enough room for both of us. So we're going to get to that point. We're definitely going to get to that point.
That's right. I've been on both sides of that line, and they come to us. So if there's people who are again hesitant to hire someone who's in a wheelchair because they think maybe they won't be able to do it, no, we stick out. And they want the people who are walking the carpet, they want to give us the opportunity. They see that, what we're up against, and they come to us. So it makes sense to hire someone who looks a little different, because they will stick out in the crew of just flashing bulbs and people shouting at you.
Yeah, and
I'd come to you.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing about it. Like, I was on this one press line, and everybody wanted to come to me. They were like, "Hey, I want you to interview me." Like, and I was interviewing the cast from what's that Marvel show that was on Freeform, Cloak and Dagger, when Olivia and Aubrey, they came to me like, "We want you to interview." And everybody looking at me like, "Why you want him? Why you want him?" So yeah, I totally get it, and it's because we make sure we know what we're doing. We don't go up there half cocked. We're like, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it well.
Yeah, because we can't afford to mess it up, and also, I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel, and it's not fair always, but a sense of responsibility to represent the entire, disability community, which I know that I don't, but I also know that people think that I do. So I try to do the best that I can to prove, hey, we can do this. Even though I'm only representing myself, I know that there's people out there who are looking at me going, "Oh, let's see if they can do it." And no, it's just me,
No, I get it, Santina. I feel the same way. I feel that, I want to make sure that I represent for our community. So others who come after me or during my time, will make sure that they get a fair shake.
Yeah, I agree. We're almost at the end, but I don't want to end this without talking about your wife of, you said 25 years?
Yeah, 25 years. She and I was actually together before I had my accident. We were together like about a year and a half. I had my accident, and we were supposed to get married, and then I had my accident, and she went on and decided to go ahead and stick with me, and 25 years later, here we go.
See, that's so great. Were you ever, was there ever a question, or did you?
I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it because, I felt that, I don't want her to miss out on her, quote unquote, being in a normal marriage. But what is a normal marriage, right? There's no such thing as a normal marriage or a normal relationship. Every relationship has its ups and downs. And there was times I was like, yeah, I don't know, and there were some doubts, but mainly on my end. And then, it took us about 3 years after my accident. We decided to go ahead and get married, and there we are.
That's so great. Well, congratulations. I love that. I'm on dating apps, so I'm nowhere near that.
Well, you remember what I told you when I interviewed you, right? I said, ain't nobody wiped you up yet. I mean, because you got it going on, Santina. So I don't know what people be sleeping on with you, because you definitely a catch. You know what I mean? Yeah. You definitely a catch.
Thank you. Well, I have to admit, I'm a little bit picky myself, so
I get it.
I can't blame it all on the guys, because it's got to be the right. I'm picky.
I definitely get that, because you invest in your time and your emotions. You just got to make sure.
Yes, and I have worked very hard to create a life that I like and that I'm happy with. And that's the life I want to keep living. And I'm trying to find someone who complements that life and fits into that life. I don't need somebody to change it or shake it up too much. You know what I mean? I don't need that. Just someone who we can do this together, But anyway, whatever. Paul, thank you so much. Can you believe we're at the end? This always happens where I'm like, what?
I know. It goes by so fast. I totally get it, because you're such an amazing communicator. So.
Oh, thank you. You said about the Google docu-series that follows you, right? How can people watch that?
It came out a year after. Came out in 2020. And Android did it for me. It's about 3 or 4 minutes, but if they go to my social media, Paul Amadeus Lane, or even my website, paulamadeuslane.com, it's actually on my splash page, so you can definitely check it out. If not, go to my website or go to my social media, and you'll find it in there. If not, I can point you to a link. But it was pretty cool. About 3.5 minutes. They filmed for like 3 days. It was cool. And yeah, and then COVID happened. It was supposed to be a lot longer, but COVID happened, and but they're able to salvage it.
Well, definitely everybody should go check out Paul's social media, because he has all of his interviews posted up there, and you can see some of his work. And I think you'll be happy, because like I said, you're really good at what you do. And it just I like when I'm watching an interview for it to feel like I'm part of the conversation. And that's something that I think you're very good at. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you want to say before I close?
Yeah, I just want to say I thank you, Santina, and keep on doing what you're doing. You're something special.
Oh, thank you so much. So are you. Really, truly, thank you. And isn't that crazy? It's so funny. I didn't realize we're both in Los Angeles and we've never met, which I always say just proves not everybody in wheelchairs know each other.
Yep, serendipity, right? So
we just met. We only met in quarantine over Zoom like this, and I thought you were in New York. I didn't even realize you're just right outside there somewhere. So funny.
I'm sure our paths crossed at the Abilities Expo. We didn't.
I'm sure, because I was also an ambassador for them many years ago as well, on the East Coast though. Cool. Well, anyway, that's it. That's it for us today. That's all. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, on Rolling with My Homies. Don't forget to give Outside In Theater a follow on your preferred social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Outside In Theater. That's THTR. And don't forget to follow Paul at Paul Amadeus Lane. And follow me at Santina Muha on all the social media channels too. Everybody be safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching.